Hey everyone, I hope you had a great Halloween, and welcome to another episode of Superhero Deep Dive. I am your host Jason, and I am pretty excited about tonight's episode, or today's episode. Whichever time you're listening, I will use that corresponding measurement of chronological period, whatever. I don't know. But as always, let me give my normal disclaimer before I get into anything. The information pulled is from different sources across the internet and may or may not be completely complete, but they do give a really good insight on the current superhero. The reason I say this is because sometimes there are storylines that I will not include, and that's simply because I don't feel it may be that important to the character's development. And so if you feel that way, that's awesome, by all means. As always, you can catch me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram under Super Deep Dive, and I'm also on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Feel free to shoot me a message, leave a comment. If you're watching the video, comment, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff so I can help build an audience. And if you guys have any requests, please feel free to let me know. And on Instagram and Twitter, I always put out, or not always, let me rephrase that. On Instagram and Twitter, I put out superhero memes almost every day. So that's a lot of fun. And I always use the hashtag Superhero Deep Dive, so you should too. All right, so let me get into it. This week, I am covering Sleepwalker. He is not very well known about, but he has had his hand in a lot of stuff, and I think that he could be much better than what he's represented as. So let's get into his history. The Mindscape is a dimension which borders on the minds of all sentient creatures. The evil Mindscape entities often seek to enter the minds of sentient beings and drive them mad. Protection comes from the Sleepwalkers, which are kind of like a dream police. There are other entities of the Mindscape sworn to protect the evil beings from entering the minds of innocents. Sleepwalkers are guardians of the Mindscape, and they apprehend beings that invade the sleeping minds of humans. And one of these guardians was tricked by his longtime foe known as Cobweb into entering the mind of one individual, a New York college student named Rick Sheridan. The two fought within Sheridan's dreams, but when Cobweb left, the Sleepwalker found himself trapped. As the Sleepwalker tried to leave Sheridan's mind, he found himself appearing in Sheridan's dreams, or alternatively, into Earth when Sheridan was asleep. At first, Sheridan believed that the Sleepwalker was just a character in his dreams until watching the evening news and seeing a report about an attempted robbery. The robbery had been broken up by someone who, according to the police sketch drawn from the description given to them by eyewitnesses, looked exactly like the being in Sheridan's dreams. Sheridan decided to avoid sleep as long as possible in order to avoid releasing the being again. When he finally dreamt, Sheridan fought this strangely dressed haunting figure. Rick reacted by tearing off Sleepwalker's Imaginator, which is a badge-like device worn by the Sleepwalkers, and it's used to teleport around the Mindscape. This resulted in an odd situation, further trapping the two together. When Rick slept, Sleepwalker could materialize in reality, or he could stay in Rick's mind and converse with him via his dreams. It was through these conversations that Sleepwalker was able to dispel Rick's initial fears that he was a malicious entity and wished him harm, and work out an agreement in terms of cohabitation. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of it's kind of a unique scenario. It's almost like they took Firestorm, where it's two minds inhabiting the same body, and they kind of tweaked it a little bit, which is cool. The Sleepwalker learned that Earth was a place full of those who preyed upon the innocent, just like Cobweb and the malevolent entities of the Mindscape. He became a crime fighter, fighting against costume villains such as 8-Ball, Bookworm, The Change Gang, and Lullaby. He also teamed up with several of New York's heroes. Once he joined Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and a half dozen others to defeat the Sinister Six when the villains were backed by the supernatural Gog. Another time, the Sleepwalker became one of Doctor Strange's secret defenders against the demonic Roadkill. So he's got some team-ups under his belt. You can't argue that. It was later revealed that Sleepwalker's race was not one dedicated to protecting Earth, but in fact secretly planned to conquer it. When the race tried to invade the world, Sleepwalker decided to rebel. This turned out to be a plot by Sleepwalker's old foe Cobweb to spread mass insanity and thereby gain more power. Cobweb transformed his own minions to appear as the Sleepwalker race and sent them to Earth using Sleepwalker's long-lost Imaginator. After reclaiming the Imaginator, Sleepwalker disappeared into the subconscious of his host, Rick. Whew! Alright, Sleepwalker helped with the Infinity Gauntlet as well. After Thanos killed off half the universe, Sleepwalker aided Darkhawk, Deathlock, and Moon Knight to stop Eon's body from invading the universe. After the defeat of Thanos and Nebula, Sleepwalker still retained his memories about the event, but considered those memories just a dream. Sleepwalker eventually gains the ability to interact with the real world again. He is seen investigating the after effects of an explosion caused by the villainous Ringmaster. He had attempted to become more involved in the situation, but was foiled by Rick's sleeping schedule. That's pretty messed up. Can you imagine your crime fighting schedule revolves around someone's nap time? So, whatever, I guess. Whatever works, right? There has to be a catch. Alright, Sleepwalker is seen as having become a registered superhuman under the Initiative after Alyssa Conover's death in an auto accident. He then appears alongside Machine Man and Agent Sum as a member of Miss Marvel's Operation Lightning Storm. By default, his human host Rick becomes an unofficial member as well. And during the Fantastic Four's confrontation with the Quiet Man, they recruited Sleepwalker's assistants to neutralize the threat posed by the heroes from Counter-Earth, reasoning that Sleepwalker was particularly suited to advise them on it, since Counter-Earth was basically Franklin Richards' dreams. During this time on Counter-Earth, Sleepwalker noted that none of the human inhabitants there were real, as they did not actually have souls, allowing the Fantastic Four to freely take them out as they were not actually killing anyone. So, it's kind of a nifty loophole. So, what do you guys think about Sleepwalker's history? It's pretty unique, right? Like, there's some stuff to it that, that has, it's kind of like here and there, He's got the mind meld stuff, but, and he can only help when his host is asleep. I would like to have seen it if maybe he could talk to the host while the host is awake as well, to be like, hey, we need to get you to pass out or something, because I need to help. But it is what it is. I wonder if Rick takes sleeping pills during emergencies to get Sleepwalker out. I don't know. I didn't see all that. But Sleepwalker possesses superhuman strength, exceptional durability, and resistance to injury. And he's got flotation-like flight. So it's not super fast flight. It's just kind of like a ghost. Like, ooh, Sleepwalker. He is also capable of projection of crude images of what he's seen from his eyes. His only offensive power was his warp gaze. And with his vision-based power, Sleepwalker could alter the shape of physical objects and twist them to his purposes. He could also modify the physical characteristics of objects he affected, making them harder or softer. So, for example, Sleepwalker initially demonstrated this power by using it to distort a sidewalk to capture a criminal. He also used this ability once on air molecules to create a wind tunnel for faster aerial travel. Owing an oath to sworn by all members of his race due to the great physical and mental pain it could cause, Sleepwalker tried not to use his warp beams on living entities. So there's some morality there. The effects of the warp vision on living entities was demonstrated when Rick, trapped in Sleepwalker's body after an encounter with the Chain Gang, inadvertently used the beam on his former girlfriend Alyssa Conover, who was about to kill Sleepwalker in Rick's body. Sleepwalker's vision causes living bodies to twist and contort, causing intense physical agony in the process. As a result, Rick unintentionally freed Alyssa from the domination of the Chain Gang, a tactic Sleepwalker himself would later adopt when freeing other people from the mental enslavement of Cobweb's minions, using his ability to detect mental enslavement to identify the humans who needed his help. In these cases, when he used his warp beams on their human victims, the humans suffered little to no mental trauma, only experiencing a mild shock as they quickly recovered. Alyssa Conover, on the other hand, suffered both the physical pain of her contortion and the serious mental shock from the effect of Sleepwalker's warp beams, which, according to the Sleepwalker, forced her to repeatedly experience her worst nightmares. It seems that the Mindspawn demons who had completely suppressed the wills of their human victims and had completely taken over their bodies took the brunt of the blast. In Alyssa's case, on the other hand, the Chain Gang did not completely take over her body, but rather attempted to force her conscious mind to do their bidding, leaving her vulnerable to the full effects of the beam. So that's pretty messed up. Sleepwalker's warp vision had different effects on demons and other extraplanar characters, not from Earth, often incapacitating them and banishing them back to their native planes, as he did to dispatch Cobweb's minions back to the Mindscape, and also to defeat Mr. Jin. His ability to use his warp beam diminishes as he uses it. The greater the intensity of its usage, the faster it is used up. So it's almost like a reserve supply. His warp beam power is replenished by rest. And as an alien resident of the Mindscape, Sleepwalker had exceptional visual abilities, being able to see see over a much farther distance than the average human, as well as being able to see and follow energy trails and see wavelength colors invisible to human eyes. Let's see here. Sleepwalker shares a mental link with this human, Rick Sheridan, that facilitates Sleepwalker's entry into Rick's mind. Instead of food, Sleepwalker fed on mental energy, needing to periodically return to Rick's mind to be able to regain his strength. Okay, that makes sense. When Rick appeared to be dead, Sleepwalker formed a temporary bond with a homeless man named Pike to borrow some of his mental energy, although he did this only with Pike's express permission. His training as a warrior of the Mindscape makes him a skilled tracker and an expert in the combat use of his powers, and also gives him a certain amount of knowledge about various supernatural entities and the workings of the mind. Sleepwalker's presence could also strengthen the powers of psychics and mind-related magic, enhancing the mental abilities of Professor X, Moondragon, Jean Grey, and Psylocke, enabling them to connect with every mind of every human on Earth to free the human race from mental enslavement by the Magus. Similarly, Sleepwalker's mere presence increased the power of Doctor Strange's mental spells and enabled him to imprison a mental demon released from a woman's mind by Nightmare. Continuing his supernatural expertise, Sleepwalker's nature also allows him to be aware of souls, allowing him to confirm that the natives of Counter-Earth did not have souls and were nothing more than psychic manifestations created by Franklin Richards. He was also able to confirm that Jim Hammond had a soul despite his artificial origins. Okay, being a resident of the mental plane also gives Sleepwalker a resistance, but not an immunity, to various mental attacks. When battling the monster Psycho, a creature that had the power to instill madness in his opponents, Sleepwalker briefly suffered from insanity, although he managed to resist and overcome Psycho's madness to finally defeat him. At the same time, Sleepwalker was shown to be able to absorb the energy of the attack and use it to increase his own strength and power, although he still suffered from its effects. Sleepwalker also has several notable weaknesses. The first was his bond to Rick. Whenever Rick awoke or regained consciousness, Sleepwalker would automatically disappear from the human world and return to Rick's mind. At the same time, Sleepwalker's strength was related to his connection with the ground and the earth. The higher he levitated, the greater his loss of strength, although he gained his full strength when actually standing on the ground itself. Similarly, Sleepwalker would weaken if he did not return to the mental plane or Rick's mind to rest and renew his supply of mental energy. Which happened both when Rick was killed during the Infinity Gauntlet and when Rick seemed to be dead, but which was actually a ruse by Sleepwalker to protect him from Cobweb's minions. Prolonged stay on Earth can lead to death. Finally, upon being exposed to a certain frequency of light, Sleepwalker initially experienced hallucinations and other pleasurable effects that distracted him from his frustration and anger at being hated and rejected by humans, despite his attempts to help him. Let's see here. He became addicted to the light, using it to escape his problems in a way similar to drug use or alcoholism. Sleepwalker's obsession with the light had tragic consequences as well, including the creation of spectra and putting Rick into a coma. Horrified at what he had done, Sleepwalker managed to overcome his addiction and save Rick's mind from the invasion of the Thought Police. So there is a lot there. Sleepwalker also used the Imaginator device, which was in the shape of an amulet. The Imaginator was capable of teleporting Sleepwalker to other targets in, out of, and to different locations within the mindscape. Sleepwalker's Imaginator was at one point lost within the mind of Rick Sheridan. So, there's just a lot there as far as powers go. He had the super strength. He had, he could fly, but the more he used his powers, and he had that warp vision, but the more he used it, the less powerful it actually became. So he actually experienced a wearing down of sorts, which is cool because sometimes it seems like these guys fight forever, and knowing that they can actually be worn out, it gives it a little bit of I don't know. It lets you relate to it better. I don't know the proper word for that. Relatability. And there's some fun facts. There's only a couple. According to Rick Sheridan, the Sleepwalker's voice sounds a lot like Vincent Price's. So he's got that deep, kind of creepy voice. Which is cool because he looks like a zombie anyway. So, it just fits. And when I was doing research, there is actually a YouTube channel for a fan series titled Marvel's Sleepwalker. You should look it up. It's currently being crowdfunded, and honestly, it looks like a lot of fun. There's the first episode out now. I believe they have the second episode trailer out, kind of like a teaser for it, which is pretty cool in itself. And I haven't gotten to watch the first episode. I did watch the trailer for the series itself, and it looks like a lot of fun. It's been out for a few years, but it looks like maybe they stopped it and they restarted the crowdfunding, or they restarted their efforts to build it up. But yeah, that's the information I have on Sleepwalker. What do you guys think of this character? He's powerful, but he's got a limit. He's got a lot of limits on him. He's only really effective when his host is asleep. So, you have that kind of drawback. If his host wakes up while he's in the middle of something, he just disappears. So, there's just a whole lot. There's a whole lot there to unpack. But I think he's pretty cool overall. I think he's got a lot of potential. And honestly, I'm anxious to see the YouTube series. I'm probably gonna watch it maybe a little bit later this week. But yeah, and we're gonna get to the power expansion set in just a moment. And this is where I go in and I talk about, should it be a movie? Would it be a cool video game, animated series, TV series? Would it just be good as a comic book storyline? If I cast it, who would I cast it as? Things like that. Things that make the world go round. But before I do, I just want to drop, my Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter information again for everyone. You can catch me on those at superherodeepdive. I post superhero memes pretty much every day during the week. I take the weekends off mainly because I'm really busy with family. My family's my life. As much as I love my audience, as much as I love this podcast, and I do, my family's my life. They take priority. But yes, and if you're watching on YouTube, I love you guys as well. You can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. If there's any kind of questions, comments, critiques, requests for future superheroes, send me a message. Put a comment under the video. I love that stuff. And if you want to email me, you can. I get emails from time to time. And that's B, the number 4, it all, so B for it all, at yahoo.com. And if you're also listening on Outworld Fleet Radio, hello, welcome to the show. If you're new, if you're a continuous listener, welcome back. I'm aired every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the day on Outworld Fleet Radio, and that's www.un-con-ventional.com/radio. Okay, now let's get into the power expansions. Like I said, this is where I go in and see how we can expand on the character. If it's like maybe movie worthy, TV series, animated series, if I'd rather have a comic book of them, what storylines we could do, all that good stuff. Well, with Marvel's library, I am fully convinced that we need to have a horror-themed series within the MCU. And this is what I propose. Let the YouTube guys keep their series. Don't give them a cease and desist, Marvel. Let them do their thing because they are fans. This is a hero that does not have a lot, a big backstory or big history. But he's got a convoluted uprising, I guess, or power set and limitations. He's got a lot going for him. He just doesn't have the history to back it up. So let them keep that. Because it's got some humor and campiness that genuinely seems to work for what they're doing. But let's have the MCU do an actual Sleepwalker series that has horror elements in it. This is all about a dream police, so let's explore that. Let's have kind of Nightmare be the main villain, and have him terrorize people's dreams and actually have some of these creatures come to life. This can give it kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street vibe, but can also be a perfect segue into other films. And if you're asking yourself, how can this be a segue into other films? Let me explain. Listen to this premise. Nightmare gets released by all the time and reality manipulation brought on by Doctor Strange, Wanda, and the events during the Infinity War. And probably Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. It's all relative. He senses this being... Nightmare senses this being that could be more powerful than anything ever imagined, and starts targeting the people around him, basically disturbing the target's life by association. And if you look throughout history, great generals, conquerors and stuff, a lot of them don't do full-on head-on attacks. They work the weaknesses. They kind of weaken the person and then go in for the kill. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's see here. So as this happens, it brings on the Sleepwalker. Sleepwalker's job is to take on these dream creatures, because the normal heroes can't necessarily do that. Maybe it's a materialization kind of thing, but it just gives Sleepwalker an opening for that. You can even include clips of other heroes as cameos, like in news reports, so they don't necessarily have to start in the series. We can just film a scene and have it be on, like, Spider-Man was trying to swing and kick this dream monster, but went right through him because they were kind of immaterial. And because they're dream monsters, it's what they do. Stuff like that. Like, that stuff can happen. So who could the target be? Well, we know that in the new Doctor Strange movie, there are heavy rumors of Professor X of the X-Men coming in. So maybe it can be him. Since he's rumored to be in it, this could be a perfect segue. This could work, right? Like, why not mess with the mind of the world's most powerful telepath? But what I'd really like to do is see this being Franklin Richards as being the target. Franklin Richards, if you don't know, is Reed Richards and Sue Richards' child from the Fantastic Four. Okay? So, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has talked about bringing in the Fantastic Four. And Franklin, like I said, is their child. He's also supposed to be one of the most powerful mutants ever, with not just reality warping powers, but reality building powers. He can build his own universe, kind of like what we saw in WandaVision, but on a much grander scale. So let's have him be the target to help tie in that character. And what if he has a breakdown, so to speak, and makes a bunch of monsters come to life? And that's where a lot of this stuff can happen. There are things that could work here, and the Sleepwalker could be the crossroads to all of that if it's done correctly. Like, what if this helps lead into Blade? We're going into the supernatural right now. What if this brings about a Werewolf by Night movie that ties in with Spider-Man? Because if you don't know, and I wouldn't necessarily expect you to know, but Werewolf by Night is J. Jonah Jameson's son, who is, J. Jonah Jameson owns the Daily Bugle, hates Spider-Man. His son was an astronaut and becomes Werewolf by Night. So what if this led to that? What if this led to another monster hunter called Bloodstone that's in the Marvel Universe? Or what if this brings about Ghost Rider? Because we're bringing in all these supernatural elements. That's more than the mystical. Supernatural is not necessarily mystical. So, let's have that kind of be what it is. But this could be a perfect way to add some of those supernatural elements in the same way Doctor Strange slowly added more magical elements, and he also added the multiverse. So, this kind of gives a lot of openings. And Nightmare has always been a heavy hitter, but he's also been more horror themed. He goes into people's dreams and makes them live their worst nightmares. Because he's more horror themed, he hasn't necessarily translated consistently to the superhero universe. But by making their own kind of separate but included line, you can see how this will not only expand the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it will enrich it as well. And when I say separate but included, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to correspond with the events of the Avengers or Captain Marvel and stuff like that, but it can dip into some of those without necessarily affecting their storylines. Like, the main universe can affect this one, but this one doesn't necessarily have to affect the main universe, But I think it'd be a lot of fun. As far as casting goes, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Because it could be pretty much anyone. You know, they had you know, they had Vin Diesel be Groot. You know, so I mean, we could have anything really. You know what would be fun, and I'm just putting this out there. What if Morgan Freeman was cast as the voice? You know, this super calming, awesome voice being the Sleepwalker. You know, like that would just be funny. But I mean, I don't have a choice with that because it's more about the storyline. I don't know who would be Rick, and I just don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around it. But I think because I was exploring all the possibilities of everything else. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Am I onto something here? Should Marvel do this? Should Marvel actually have a horror-themed line? Because I don't think you'll ever be able to convince me that they shouldn't. But let me know. Like I said, you can catch me on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter under Super Deep Dive and use the hashtag superherodeepdive. Follow me on those because I post superhero memes daily. Also, you can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share. And if I'm able to post memes on that, I would. But yeah, let's get a conversation going. And if you're listening to me on Outworld Fleet Radio, hello. I love you guys. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. I hope everyone continues to do the best they can in everything they do. I will talk to you guys next week. But yeah, in the meantime, be blessed, be happy, be safe, be smart, and if you're not smart, don't get caught. I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.